Now in the Core Employee Info tab, click on Challenge and click the Create Record button. This screen is used to designate the type of challenge or physical ability, or it could be a mental disability, that could possibly prevent an employee from doing their original job. So in the case of Ontario and most other places in Canada, it will be a Workplace Safety Insurance Board file that would say that, look, an employee can come back to work, they do experience a certain challenge, or in some cases they were hired knowing that the challenge exists for employment equity purposes, and here we would designate the nature of the challenge itself, and that helps for work planning and possibly return to work or modified work situations. So let's have a look. Let's choose a challenge group, and this employee is 01, severely challenged. And it could be after an accident or after military service. It could be a lot of different things, right? Now, the degree of challenge denotes out of 0 to 100% how severe is the actual challenge itself. So, for example, if it was eyesight, a visual impairment, 10 might be they're partially not able to see. 100 means that they're fully not able to see or blind. So we have to designate some sort of percentage around it. So I'm going to say 75. And the system is automatically going to tell me that they're going to change a credit factor to 0.1, which it did. And that's okay. We don't worry about credit factor. That's actually designed for some European law that requires some sort of a number. Now let's see. The type of challenge is, there's a number of codes in here, and certainly we could add more to it. But let's say it is a sick disability, okay? And the end date would be a date specified as the end of a challenge. So for example, if you got injured and your arm doesn't work, your arm is broken, it's not going to be broken forever necessarily, or it might be, but let's say your recovery period is a year, and for that year we have to give you work that is not that challenging, meaning you could do the work even though your hand is broken or your arm is broken. We can designate a date here, so we won't do that at all. Now over here, we won't fill it in, but we could actually put information. So if there was an agency, either the Workplace Safety Insurance Board or some sort of a physiotherapy agency or hospital or even a doctor, we would specify who issued, who authorized this official challenge, what's the medical notation, and certain information about it. So let's try to save this record. And it's saying that the degree of challenge must be divisible by 10. So let's make it 70%, okay? And let's see what happens. And the record will save. Now let's have a look at the internal medical service area. Click on it and click the Create button. Now this screen is important because it allows the organization to record when we requested certain medical tests or other types of tests of the employee. So let's have a look. We chose vision as the test. The subtype is vision, but you can always choose something else. Like for example, it could be a hearing test or some sort of a mobility test or manual dexterity test. Now the date of the examination was today. So we won't do last examination. We didn't have a last examination. Today's the first one. But the result will be fit for work. So you can see that the doctor or whoever makes the test happen actually said, hang on now, they're not okay. They can do light duty work, they're restricted work, or it's positive, pass, or negative. But fit for work, I think, is a designation a doctor can give to say return to work, no problem. Double click on that, and we'll leave diagnosis alone. That will be some sort of a code issued by a medical authority that we don't know what that would be right now. So let's save the record, and let's have a look. Click on Internal Medical Service, click on the Overview button, and one vision test was recorded for the employee. So it's very important in certain occupations, for example, airline pilots or air traffic controllers, or even some sort of drivers, for example, a school bus driver who drives children around, where they have to do tests periodically. It might even be legal, that we keep track of exactly when they had the test and the fact that it hasn't been expired, because we're liable for it. Now from the Planning Data tab, you might want to use these scroll buttons to go back and forth. Go to Monitoring of Tasks and click the Create button. So this is very similar to a previous screen that we had a look at, and we're going to tell the system that this employee has a task type, which is, let's say, work permit. So if we have to renew a work permit, we would say we need to do it at a certain point. So the task has to be done in, let's say, the 10th of December. And it is a new task. It's not something that's in process or the task has been completed, but again, you would change the code later on. So it's a new task. We're going to set a reminder for ourselves just a few days before, and a reminder maybe 1 week before the actual event. So 1 week, and we're going to specify that it will be a reminder takes place before the task deadline. There we go. Now if we had any sort of comments to put in here, we would do it. For example, which agency to contact with managers to get approval from, etc. Let's save this record, and it will appear. So you can do as many of these records as you want. We'll just do one more. So click the create button. So we're going to monitor a task called pay scale jump, and the date that we're going to do it is actually, let's do it sometime in the new year, so 2016. We're going to do it on the 18th of February, and it is a new task. We're going to set a reminder date of maybe a few weeks before, and we're going to say the 1st of February, and we're going to set a reminder of 2 weeks, and a reminder that says before the actual task is to happen. And again, comments if we need to inform people, etc., we would put in here. So let's save this as well. Let's have a look. So monitoring of tasks, click the overview button, and the system flags 2 tasks for this employee. Now from the planning data tab, let's have a look at other previous employers. Click on it and click the create button. So in some cases, an organization might not care who this employee used to work for before. Obviously, it's on the resume. We would file the resume and not worry about it. But in some cases, we might want to keep track of it. It might be of value to us. So let's say that the start date, this employee used to work from 2013 to 2014. For an employer called GoCo Inc. in Toronto, in Canada. Industry was airlines, and the job that the person did was actually a man or woman, and the work contract was employee. Now let's save this. And of course, you can have a few of these, and if you go to overview, you can now quickly look at who this employee used to work for. So again, a good example of why we might want to do this is for liability purposes, to see if an employee had exposure to certain industries in the past. So for example, my company is a bakery, but we're thinking of buying a restaurant. So I want to see if this employee used to work in a restaurant before at a previous employer.